pronouncing his last name, of course. Anyhow, Michael Natsakian, right?
That's pretty close. Manatsakanian.
Manatsakanian. Okay, there we go. Manatsakanian. It is. Michael, thank you very, very much for coming. How are you?
I am doing all right. How about yourself, Effie? How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. And I'm very honored to have you as my guest. So thank you for that very, very much. And Michael, for those of you who might know a little bit about him, has a lot he can share with us. And he's been places and going places. But I would like to begin where I almost always begin, at the beginning. But before we get to the beginning, I want to talk about 8 Mile. That was the movie that Michael chose. And for those of you who know, I'm almost at the second iteration of the podcast. So soon I'll be able to show those adverts if you haven't seen them. Talk to us about why you chose 8 Mile. What's special about that movie?
First and foremost, Eminem. Love Eminem. Obviously, my initials are MM. That's exclusively why. No, I'm just kidding. I just like, I like Eminem. I think he did a great job in that movie. And I love rap and I love the story. I love the rap battles. And I just really love like Jimmy or B Rabbit, who's like Eminem kind of in the movie. I love that he has to literally overcome basically all of his disadvantages in life. He has to overcome his own internal self-doubts, his external, like, dude, what are you doing? You're not the right fit. You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be doing this thing. And he just does the thing that feels true to him. And that's all that really matters, whether he succeeds or not. Obviously, if you watch the movie, he does do pretty well, right? But at the end of the day, just the fact that he's willing to persevere and do the thing that he is passionate about, that's what it is for me. I just love that. I love a story like that.
Yeah, it is a very good story. Especially when he first decides he's going to enter the rap competition, and we sit, I'm like, come on, open your mouth, come on, do it.
Right.
That was torturous because you want so much for him to succeed. And of course that was one of his failures. So that's interesting.
And I love that he, the way that final rap battle versus Papa Doc, I love that he just says like, I know you're going to say all this stuff about me. Go for it. I'll say it about me first. So now let's start, you want to talk about me, let's talk about you. Like, I just love the way it's handled. It's just obviously, the winner or the protagonist wins in the end, but it just is, I just like it. Just him being authentically him is all. That's like, my favorite part about it for sure.
That's really cool. I had seen it a long time ago, but I often will rewatch, and I did. And I thought, oh, I'm so glad I did. Thanks for that.
There's parts of it maybe we could fast forward, but
yeah, whatever. So I want to talk a little bit about your family of origin, because that does give us an understanding of where you came from. So talk to me about when you were little. Where were you born? What's your family of origin like? Are you an only child? Do you have a bunch of siblings? Talk to us about your early years.
Sure. It's a great question. I'll even take it back a few years before I was born, but I was born in America in Burbank, California. I am 100% Armenian, although my family, like my entire lineage is Armenian up until my baby girl, 100% Armenian, like our entire history of people are 100% Armenian. It's kind of insane. But my family immigrated to Russia at the time, early 90s, 80s, the Soviet Union, USSR owned a lot of the areas around it, territories around it. They were all part of, communist Russia. My mom and dad, they immigrated out of Russia in 92, right when the Soviet collapse occurred, right around that same time frame, and immigrated to America. They split up shortly after, and both were in a whole new country. And at that time, mom was pregnant with me. So my dad was out of my life at the very, very beginning. And my mom, single mom, with myself and my brother, who was a year younger. And she was in a whole new country, barely knew how to speak English, didn't really, was just trying to make ends meet, but she had to work literally nonstop, 2-3 jobs throughout the entirety of my childhood, just to make I guess the best phrase is just to make ends meet, just to have um, to pay for housing, to pay for food. She was too prideful. One of her bigger faults, but also strengths. Very hardworking, but prideful to get on any government assistance or anything. But for me, just being born in our amazing country, like America, is by far the biggest lottery ticket I could have ever won. I could not have fathomed a life in Armenia, who's still going through war, and Russia, who is a protagonist, or not a protagonist, who's actively attacking Ukraine, also in a war. It's like I'm just thankful forever and always for being born an American. So I'm, regardless of struggles and everything, I'm so thankful that this is where I've been raised. So
wow, that's awesome. Now, where in America was she at that time?
So around Burbank, California. So it's like near Los Angeles.
So she stayed there. Okay. And who took care of you guys? If you had a brother that was a year younger, who was taking care of you guys while she was working?
Yeah, that was the trouble. So she, when her and my dad were together, we had a grandma on my dad's side who would also take care of us. And then really like friends or try to take to work. There was not a lot. And very early on, I guess I don't really talk about this a lot, but very early on in our childhood, I was taking care of my brother and I. Basically, we go to school or whatever was there at the time, and then whatever afternoon activities, and then she'd come home and grab us. So we had very, very little bit of supervision and guidance outside of, when her and my dad were together and my grandma, or if she made friends, or, we had like American grandparents that were older people that were really nice and wanted to help out and took care of us because my mom was basically at work the whole time.
Wow. Wow. That is not easy. I have to say that I myself had to take care of my little sister. So, because my mom was working in a similar situation to you. So I do understand that. So taking a look at this picture, this is your mom?
Yes, this is my mom. This is my mom.
Gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, she must have been 19 or 20 years old in this photo.
Wow. And that's you?
That was me at my first Christmas. And I love this photo because my baby girl is exactly the same age I was in that photo, going through her first Christmas right now. Once again, just so fortunate that what a difference. I mean, 30 years has made. It's kind of insane.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so talk to me about this picture here. You're a little bit older.
Yep. Those are my grandparents, my grandpa and my grandma. I love them so much, both of them. My grandpa didn't have a dad, throughout the majority of my childhood. So my grandpa has always been my role model of like how to be a man, how to be a provider, how to take care. And my grandparents are my favorite people in the world.
Maternal or paternal?
Maternal.
Okay. Yes, maternal. Nice.
And but the problem was, since they were in Russia, it was very hard for them to come to America. So we didn't get to visit them often, except for when we went and visited them in Russia. So I always cherish those moments. Absolutely.
Nice. Very, very nice. All right. So at this point, this is preschool or in school?
I don't know. I mean, obviously it looks like we're old enough for school. I don't fully know what age. I know my grandparents look relatively young there. So I would assume that was maybe, I have no idea.
Well, tell me about your first few years in school. Were you already speaking English?
Yeah. So although English was my third language, we were speaking English. Yeah. So Russian and Armenian were my first two, but it was all kind of simultaneously. It was all roughly at the same time. Mm-hmm. At school, yeah. So my brother and I were we had a few extra classes than other kids to adjust to, English and a little slower reading and writing, not because we were incapable, just because we were doing more than the average person, in regards to speaking, reading, and writing. Right. Nonetheless, we were a little slower at the time in our education. Our early years was actually really funny. I almost brought on a photo of this. So because my parents were so, I guess, proper, even though we didn't have a lot growing up, we still wore, for the first several months of going to school, we wore little suits. Like they dressed us up in like little crazy businessmen. We would go to school in little suits. And it's
I'm sure the American kids thought you were totally Weird.
Yeah, on top of the last name, yeah, 100%. They're like, what the heck is going on here? My parents did adapt and stop dressing us like that, but nonetheless, yeah, I recall that. There's a photo of me in a little suit. Like, what is this little business person doing here?
Wow. Wow.
From very early on, with the last name, the language barrier, the suits, the things like that, the cultural differences, my parents did not allow, us to go to people's houses. They would allow people in our house, but we weren't allowed to go to people's houses. It's very strict in regards to, you don't eat at someone else's house. You don't really take anything. Like, nothing is given to you. You don't take anything. You don't go and eat someone's house. You don't spend the night at someone's house. It's for me, it feels very strange because it's like, well, all my friends are doing it. Why would we not be able to? But that's just the way it was culturally for them. And that's all they pretty much knew. So that was like I've never even thought about these things in like, I don't know, decades. So it's kind of weird to like go over this for the first time. It feels like a therapy session.
Oh, well, the thing is that I think there are a lot of podcasts with you on already. You're becoming extremely popular. I think that the early years say a lot. They tell us a lot of where we started. So I'm curious, and if you don't want to answer them, you can just, I don't know, you want to end the podcast?
I have no problem.
I'm just joking.
I've actually spent, so
yeah.
We'll get into this.
Tell me this. What grade were you in when you were finally like in with everybody else? Was it in elementary or was it high school?
It could have been elementary, although most of that's like blacked out kind of, I don't really remember most of it. In middle school, right at the start of middle school, we moved from like this. So we were in LA really young, and then around Santa Barbara until middle school. So around 6th grade, we moved to Paso Robles, more like Central California, like San Luis Obispo County area.
Yeah, that's a beautiful area.
Very nice area. And that's when my stepdad came into our life as well. So we moved to Paso Robles, and I was figuring myself like new kid at this new middle school. My brother was in 5th grade, so he was just finishing up his elementary school. I was just starting middle school with no friends, didn't know anything. So it still took a little bit of time to acclimate with people, but sports was like a big one for us. So we played a lot of sports. That was an eeasy way, except for, our last name was always this massive barrier. It wasn't like a language thing. It wasn't like it was always the last name. It's just like, what the heck? What are you? Like, I've never seen something like that before. Especially on your football
little children, when they're seeing all those letters together and they're like, what is that?
I remember when teachers would say Michael, and then like a substitute or something would try to even start saying, I'm like, that's me. You don't need to try it. I got it. It's me.
I'll save you.
Yeah, please don't go out of your way to try to say it. And it's funny with sports, with the football, my jersey had my name on it. And then even in the military, it's like on my name tape, this last name has never left me. I no longer think of it as, for a long time, I wish I didn't have it. I wish it wasn't so hard. I wish it wasn't so different. And, when it came from my dad, who was not a part of my life. So it's like, what really is the purpose of this crazy last name right now? But then I took a lot of pride and ownership of it, not from him, but for me. This is my identity. This is who I am. And it is different. It is authentically me, and it is who I am. So like, I am Michael Manatskainen. I don't care about what it's attached to or anything. Like, I am Michael Manatskainen. I'm proud of it. I'm no longer embarrassed of it. And maybe that's where 8 Mile comes in too, is just going into, who I am. And, that's a big part of it.
That's interesting because I felt the same way about Effie. I really disliked that name. Everybody was like, Effie, is that what, and I hated being different. And when I was 16, I tried to change it. And then everybody said, because technically my first name is Francis. And they're like, you're not a Francis, you're Effie. And the more that year went by, the more I realized, what am I giving up? That's my identity.
Right.
So I finally embraced it.
That was me in college.
What the effing?
Right. So like, that was literally my transition, was from being embarrassed throughout the majority of my youth for the last name and trying to conform and fit in and all that stuff, to then college embracing that part of me. And then over the last decade, like, it's just constantly embracing who I am and being authentically me. And that we can touch like between mentorships and surrounding myself around the right people. It's just like, I'm not embarrassed. I'm not ashamed. I will be me. for those that are cool with it and want to be part of it, let's do that together. If you don't, awesome. There's 8 billion people. Go hang out with them. Like, I no longer worry about anyone else and what they think. And that's been such a relief mentally to just,
Also, there's a pride in being different.
Yeah.
You get to an age and you go, wait a minute. Okay, it does help to be different. So yeah, I know what you're saying very much. Although your name is more difficult than mine, but still, no doubt about it. Well, let's continue now. You were in high school, you were doing sports, and you seem pretty athletic. So I bet you were pretty good. Football, anything else you jumped into?
I kind of did everything, and I wasn't very good, but I definitely tried hard. I played football, I played basketball, I tried baseball for one season in varsity, and I didn't even make the team. I was so bad. I couldn't even catch but I tried every sport. I played golf in my senior year. I did swimming, and then I did wrestling and track. So like I did a little bit of everything. For me, always, I was always very academically inclined, and it wasn't that I'm gifted. It definitely wasn't the case. I mean, I guess people think that I am, but I just work really freaking hard, and I've always worked really hard, whether it's sports or academics. My mom always told me that my brain is what's going to take me further. Sports are there just for fun. I wasn't built to be a professional basketball player. So just go and enjoy it and have fun. And so that's how I've always taken it. Just love playing sports, being active. I love that a lot more than going running, laps around a track. So that's kind of always thought of sports, like, how can I be healthy? How can I have fun with other people? How can I do some, compete? But it's never going to be I never stress myself necessarily over sports. Education was a whole nother thing.
Yeah. Let's talk about academics. How were you as a student? Were you average C+ or A+? What were you? D?
Yeah, no, I was the A+ student, like through and through. I got literally above a 4.0 GPA between, everything before high school. During high school, I was like number 1 or number 2. I think I was like number 2 in school, but I was also the needs improvement, basically needs to stop talking kind of kid. I talk a lot. And I don't know why or where it stems from, but I've always talked a lot. I was accidentally disruptful. In hindsight, I wish I wasn't so much. I think I just got bored very easily, and there was I see things that they do now in school, like letting kids stand in the back and things like that. That could have been helpful for someone like me who was just bored. I'm like, I'm done. Like, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
You know?
So when you were getting ready to graduate from high school, did you already know what you wanted to do when you grew up? Talk to us about that aspect, because I do find it interesting that some have no idea and others knew, this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
Where were you?
So I thought I knew what I wanted to do because my mom told me what I wanted to do for the entirety of my life. And anyone who's got immigrant parents, or even not, but if you have immigrant parents, you're going to go into one of two paths, which is basically doctor or lawyer. Maybe now it's computer scientist, but it was like, I'm going to be a doctor no matter what. And I was okay with that idea because I've always wanted to be financially free. Since we were not that as a family, I didn't want finances to be a hindrance on on my life. More so less about the money. I've never been a materialistic person. I don't care about literally any materials. There's very few things I actually care about, like material possessions. But the freedom that having money would allow you to do whatever you wanted to do, that has always been a major driver for me. But the idea of becoming a doctor to make good money and to really help people, that was a huge one for me. I've always loved helping people. And I even, which made me very good as a student going into college to get scholarships. I mean, I was always volunteering, doing sports, and academically doing really well, like the over 4.0 GPA. So I was a great candidate for school, and I went in as I was going to be a doctor. That's what I was going to study, neuroscience and physiology.
Oh, interesting. So you started on the pre-med
I
track?
did. Mm-hmm. And one thing I want to highlight, I also met my wife in my senior year of high school, and we've been together since then. So over 12 years now. So that was like a huge pivotal moment of my life too, was meeting my wife in high school, right near the end of my high school.
So at what point did you guys, she's a very beautiful lady.
Sorry for the bad quality. That's not me.
Oh, no, don't be silly. That's fine. Well, wait, actually, I might be able to enlarge it. Hold on. Oops. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
So
So this was a whole journey afterwards.
Yes, it is. But you met her in high school.
Yes, ma'am.
Did she go to college at the same college as you?
So her first year, she went to junior college, and then I went to UC San Diego, and then she transferred to San Diego State, which is a great state university. So
Yep.
she came and joined me in San Diego the year after.
Nice.
So then we lived together since then, essentially. Very
Awesome.
early on into our journey, we've lived together and been building a life together for over a decade now, essentially.
That's pretty cool,
Mhm.
especially since you got a little one now.
Yeah.
But we're jumping just a tad. I want to know when you went from high school, what happened with pre-med? Are you a doctor? And how did we get to this picture? Tell me a little bit about that in between time.
Sure. Yeah. So when I went to college during that first year, so just to understand kind of my background and my work, I mean,
yeah,
I went to school 2 weeks before it started because I needed to work a job to be able to make ends meet financially. I got a lot of scholarships, but I also had to take out loans. And then my parents have always been, my parents have always tried to be supportive, but financially supportive is not something they could do. There's just no budget for it. So I had to go and work at school even weeks before my first ever class because it was so, people think of 18-year-olds taking out loans and just like, oh, like they're whatever their thoughts are about it. I had to work for literally everything. In that first year, I felt like I was studying, taking tests, doing well, and then forgetting, studying, taking tests, doing, and then forget, because I'm just like memorizing things for the sake of these tests to then eventually become a doctor. So between that pattern of like, I don't know if I'm really learning or I'm just memorizing for tests, and then volunteering at a hospital and seeing like more burn victims and things like that, I completely got dissuaded from that career path. I didn't think academically it was what I wanted to do. I wanted to actually learn things and solve problems. And I get it, like, understanding like things about a cell and all that is great, but I wanted to like really solve problems. And I've always been more of a math and numbers kind of guy. And just seeing that kind of stuff in the hospital. And my mom worked as a pharmacist at hospitals, which she's done for the last, 2 decades. She said I'd get used to it. And I quite literally remember telling her, I don't want to ever get used to this. I know there's a place for this. Like we need doctors, we need people to take care of this. I don't think I'm built to handle this. And I don't really want to handle this. So
it was too much emotionally.
Yeah, I was. I didn't want to do that. And the third thing is that work-life balance. I didn't care so much about the money because I don't need it in excess. What I cared about was the time freedom. And you see so many doctors who are on call and they make solid money, but it's like at what cost for their work life? Between those three things, I made the pivot to engineering, to chemical engineering, because I wanted to learn more and solve more problems, and still help people, but like with different types of problems. Instead of helping people specific with their health problems, helping solve bigger problems in general for, society as a whole. So I made that pivot, and the goal was to become financially free sooner than what it would take to become a doctor. I just didn't know what that meant at the time because I've never seen that before.
Interesting. Did you enjoy the academics of chemical engineering?
I did. I was one of the top in my class as well, because now I was no longer memorizing for the sake of, it wasn't like memory. Like memory in engineering doesn't really matter. It's like,
it was regurgitation, right?
Right. It's like, can you understand these concepts? Can you understand how these formulas work? Mm-hmm. And you could memorize it and try to memorize answers, but engineering is very easy to filter those kinds of people out. Right. It's really like, do you truly grasp what you're trying to accomplish here?
Exactly.
And then piecing all these different pieces of information together to solve this problem. That was very enjoyable and exciting for me. I guess exciting is an overstatement, but it was much more exciting academically than
memorizing
the components of a cell or whatever.
Yeah. I hear you. That's cool. And did you graduate?
Yes. So I graduated near the top of my class as a chemical engineer with a minor in environmental studies. And the way UCSD worked is you could take up to X number of units and it was the same exact amount of cost. And I was paying for my schooling and I was working 2-3 jobs to just make ends meet. I took every additional class that I could as well. I took extra business classes, computer science classes. I took art and music classes. Like I took extra classes to max out my credits. I literally almost wasn't able to graduate because I didn't have enough credits left. They had to give me like I don't know what to call it. They had to like allow me to take a few more credits to finish my final ones. But because I was so committed to learning as much as I could while I was paying for it, and I've always kind of been that way. I love to learn for the sake of learning and improving myself. But also, I need to learn the engineering stuff to graduate. So I did graduate as a chemical engineer with a minor in environmental studies. So I was always very passionate about the environment, and that was going to be the route that I went. I tried working as a sustainability consultant. It wasn't the right fit for me. It wasn't as technical as I wanted it to be. So I started working as an environmental engineer, and I had this opportunity. So that's kind of the pivot into real estate, if you'd like me to touch on that.
Wow. Yes, of course.
So we had a family friend who they knew of this apartment complex in San Diego. They needed like a leasing specialist in the evenings. So this was an opportunity for me to come in and work for 2-3 hours, make a little bit of extra money. I could work on whatever I needed to in the afternoons or in the evenings during that time. And just if tenants or someone had something, I could, address those concerns and make a little bit of extra money. So I did that job. And then one day the young owners came into the property in the evening, and I started having a conversation with them, and they're like, what the heck? What is an engineer like doing in this job? And I explained the situation and all that. We got more into what they were doing, and they basically explained to me the concept of BRRRR: buying, renovating, renting out, refinancing, and then taking that money to repeat that cycle over and over again. But they were doing it with multi-million-dollar apartment complexes. I never in my life fathomed that would be even close to the trajectory I was at, or that I would get to. But I did understand that, okay, I've wanted to become financially free. I know that I'm saving and setting money aside for stocks. I can pretty much model it out at a 10% return, yada, yada. If I put in this much in 45 years, I'll have this much. I can withdraw X amount every year. Great. But that felt so slow. So I thought, how can I take more control of it? And then real estate became the solution, the asset that can help me do that. And that was kind of just the concept of it, where I started learning about real estate investing because I saw a real life example.
Yeah. And if they were young, you probably might have thought, gosh, if they can do it, why can't I?
100%. I mean, when I say young, like probably in their 30s or young 40s, but they were way more wealthy than anyone I knew at that point. Right. And it was just like, exactly. If they can do it, that's literally how I've lived a lot of my life. If they can do it, why can't I? My wife created this this image, or I don't even know what to call it, but like a chalkboard that we have with that holds our keys, and it literally says, like, if anyone else can do it, so can I. And that's truly how I feel. I need, maybe as an engineer, I need proof of concept, and then I can really hit the ground running. And that's kind of how I've always been, is I just need some proof of concept. And once I see that works, I will go full force into it, just make it better and iterate it and make it better. But I need to see it. I need to believe it's possible before I can move forward with that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Did you continue to work for them part-time, or did you do any business with them? I mean, I'm glad that they came into your life because they got you thinking, which is the most important thing. But did you take any other actionable steps with them?
No. So that was just inspiration to learn. At that exact same time, I was waiting for 2 different positions. One was at the military as an environmental engineering officer. And then the other one was as a petroleum engineer, or like a chemical engineer. Yep. I was going to, my visa was already being processed to go to the UAE to go do some training and then come back and work as a or as a petroleum engineer, which is very contradictory to my passion for the environment. But it was also the highest paying position that I could take with my degree at that time. In the end, I ended up joining the military because that was my preferred route. It just took a lot longer than I was anticipating because they only hired 4 of my position every year because it's like a highly specialized role.
Right.
And for me, even though I took a massive pay cut, it made a lot more sense for me and for my personal reasons, because of the fact that I've always wanted to serve our country. I mean, I am so grateful for being born here. Yeah. I'm so thankful. In Armenia and Russia, you're forced into military service.
Yep.
For me, it just was massive gratitude. I never wanted to deploy. I never wanted to hurt anyone else. That was never my intention when I joined. It was exclusively, what can I do to make the lives the lives for soldiers better? And the environmental engineering route was the way that I was able to do so.
That's awesome. Awesome. So here you had already been in service. And what is this picture of? Bring us up to date to this picture.
Yeah. So
And
In
how did you get here?
2018, I commissioned into the Army as an Army officer. 2019, I was spent a lot of time learning. I was training in Oklahoma, then San Antonio, and then moved up to Alaska. And then my wife and I rented out a duplex. We lived in one unit, and then there was neighbors in the other. And it was like, dude, this is what I should do. I should buy one of these things, live in one, and then rent out the other. We're already doing it now. We just don't own it. So that was my singular mission. And I underwrote hundreds, like every single multi-unit, 4 units or below, that was in Fairbanks, Alaska. As soon as it hit the market, I was analyzing it and analyzing it and analyzing it. And from early 2019 till 2020, there was at least 100 plus properties that I underwrote. Some of them were further out and all that. I just wanted to practice that skill set. However, I just kept analyzing and analyzing until I went to a real estate investment association meeting, a RIA meeting, and met other real estate investors. And I was comparing my numbers to their numbers. And I was like, dang, I'm pretty spot on, if not better than the way they're analyzing it. But at the end of the day, they have way more real estate and I have nothing. So then in March of 2020, ironically, when COVID started, but right before that, I gave myself an ultimatum that I can be the best underwriter for deals, but that means nothing for my financial, picture. So I can either stop wasting my time playing real estate investor, or I can actually commit to the thing that I need to do, which is make offers and buy these properties, not just analyze them. And so this was the very first property that, after that ultimatum, made sense for my spreadsheet. And then that same time, even though the whole world stopped, we put it under contract right when everyone else stopped with COVID. We put it under contract and closed on it within months of COVID starting.
Wow.
And that's what this was. This was the culmination of years of education, years of practice, and networking and analyzing deals to then finally get that proof of concept. And the results were incredible. I mean, we were living rent free. We had in a nicer place than we were living in before. And our tenant was paying down our entire mortgage payment every single month. So this was like a phenomenal proof of concept.
Must have made you very happy.
It made me very happy because then I could say, okay, this thing works. Like I'm putting numbers on a spreadsheet. Here's the reality of it. Are there bumps and bruises and we had to renovate and find tenants and all that? Of course.
Yeah.
But it was the proof of concept that I needed to then scale massively, because that was like 4 years ago. So there's been a lot of
that's right.
real estate in the last 4 years since then.
So when you met other realtors and investors, had you started, how were you learning? How did you know which underwriting calculator to use? And were you by yourself or did you have a group?
Yeah, great question. So at that time, there's even more information now than there was back then, like online education. I wasn't very much in the funnels of like real estate education or anything like that, but I did hear of Bigger Pockets and I was listening to their podcast. I was reading their books. I have plenty of them on my bookshelf over here. And then they had an online calculator that they used to give for free. I don't think they do anymore, but it was overly cumbersome. So I created my own version, simplified version of their like 10-page one into like a 1-pager that I could quickly filter out investments that made no sense and then detailed analyze the ones that do make sense.
Interesting.
And the concepts are really easy. I mean, as an engineer, it's a little bit of addition, subtraction, maybe once or twice you multiply and divide, but otherwise, like it's the math is very easy. It's getting the data to put in there accurately. That's a challenge. And then feeling confident with the numbers that you put in place. That's where talking to other investors and confirming, is this what you're seeing for average utilities? Is this what you're seeing for rent? Do you have vacancies? Like 8% vacancy of rental income is around 1 month of vacancy. Are you seeing 1 month more, less? Like learning what was real to then plug in made it much better for me. Not just analyzing in a vacuum, but analyzing based on real numbers by real investors in the market that I was looking to operate in.
So your calculator is something that is rather sought after. And I'm curious, is it the original one or were there many iterations? And how can we get your investing calculator?
Yeah, so that calculator is in the graveyard. It's phenomenal. It was phenomenal for its purpose. But for me, it's my current calculator, the Ultimate Creative Finance Calculator. It is and was online. There's a free one that you can download at any time on my website, michaelmnat.com, or you just go on like my Instagram at michaelmnat or mnat. Then you can find all those links and resources. otherwise, I do have my paid calculator. There's a paid calculator. You pay one time, you get lifetime access to it, but I'm bringing it into my, like I have a community of super investors. It's something new that I've started to help people
Yes,
on what
you
I've been able to
are.
do. And
And
they
I
get
want,
access to it.
okay, what the heck? Let's just jump. Wait,
I'll
let's
give like a 5-second summary of what I've done since then to now from the very first
well,
property. Is that
yeah,
good?
I guess we better at least talk about who the frick is this dude? How did he get into my show?
Yes. So Pace Morby. So let me give a very quick summary from that very first property. Like I said, it was my proof of concept. So then I said,
Right.
real estate is phenomenal. I'm going to do more about this. But because I was house hacking or using my VA loan to live in, a property and then rent on the other side, I need to wait one more year to be able to do that again. So I said, I want to learn more and more about real estate. So I started learning about wholesaling, where I can find great investment opportunities and then put them under contract and then sell them to end buyers. I started doing that out of state in Huntsville, Alabama. And
Wait,
I wanted
you
to
were
learn.
still in Alaska?
I was still in Alaska while I was doing that in Alabama.
And
I
you
didn't
were
want
doing
to
it
do
in
it in
Alabama.
Alaska.
Okay.
Yes. I was just basing it off the metrics of if the goal is to sell properties or put properties under contract to sell them to end buyers. Well, where are more end buyers at? In Huntsville, Alabama, parts of Florida, these were areas in which there was a lot of buyers for investments. So what I did was I would talk to them and see what they wanted. I would reverse engineer and then find them what they wanted. So I always had a buyer for the deals I put under contract. Where a lot of wholesalers are looking for deals and then trying to sell it to anyone.
Right.
I work with buyers to find them exactly the deals that they wanted, because then I knew exactly how much I'd be making as well. So it gave me confirmation of my numbers.
That's
so I did
good.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of analytical, the way you'd expect an engineer's mind to work. Did you come up with it on your own, or was that part of PACE?
No, so PACE is even later. I had 27 rentals before I even heard about PACE.
Really? Good for you.
So PACE helped me elevate to a whole nother level in for a variety of reasons, which I can touch on. Did the wholesaling, and then I was able to house hack another property. I combined my ability, like I started learning about seller financing and creative financing, so I did not have to wait as long. This is still before PACE actually as well. So I learned about seller financing, combined my off-market deal finding in my local market of Alaska, looking for more multi-units to buy creatively. Long story short, I was able to get 20 rental cabins under a contract that were going to generate me thousands of dollars a month in cash flow. And I was able to structure in such a way between the bank and the seller, I was going to make money to buy this property that then generated me a bunch each month. And that's what I got.
Wait, this is where everybody goes, really? It's really true and possible? Wait a minute, do a background check on this guy. Let's see those HUDs.
Hey, I'll take you to the cabins.
Oh my God. I'm so happy for you. Was it in Alaska?
Yeah, so all those first 27 were all in Alaska. Well, I guess what's that? That's 26. So the first 26 were all in Alaska.
Cool. How did you, since you hadn't come in touch with, who I consider one of, a fantastic mentor and a bit of a magician, how did you figure it? It wasn't from, I don't think it would have been from Bigger Pockets, because I was following Bigger Pockets.
No one there was able to help. So it was the concept of seller financing. The seller had equity in which, like, let's say it was a $800,000 purchase price. They had around a $400,000 debt. He needed around $100,000 to $150,000 of his $400,000 of equity, right, to then be able to do his next venture. So what I did was said, okay, well, what about that other $250,000? What can we do about that? Because I need to bring in 25% down to buy these cabins. I don't have $200,000 plus closing costs and all that to buy this thing. I do want to buy it. Is there a way in which we can structure this for it to make sense? So I haphazardly implemented the Morby method, which is take out a new loan, a commercial loan, buy the property, and then have the seller basically transfer back the funds and then finance it to me over the next 12 years. I was able to structure better terms with him than the original bank, than the actual commercial bank. And that was the only way I was going to be able to make it happen, because it was military, right? I didn't have a ton of funds, and I needed to, that was the gist.
What about paperwork? I mean,
so that was really
PACE has always been a big one on paperwork. How did you even find that?
So I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it was two simple things combined into one complicated transaction. It was a new loan, which any title company will do, and then it was a seller finance loan, which any title company can do as well. And then just combining those two, because the bank allowed the seller to carry 10% of my down payment, we already had a lot of that stuff done the right way with the servicing company. who I pay to pay the seller. We just took that and then expanded the loan from 100,000 to 200, like 30 something thousand. So then I didn't have to pay any money, and then, ended up with a little bit more. It was fortunate because seller financing isn't overly complicated. It's done all the time. And Pace, my mentor, right, our mentor, who's so phenomenal, he didn't create any of this stuff. He's just better than anyone else at articulating and helping other people get in the fold. So especially seller financing, very common. It was combining these two common strategies into an uncommon way of buying and holding real estate, which we actually dubbed the Morby method, which I didn't know until a year later when I heard about Pace Morby.
How cool is that? That investor, that seller, very fortunate that you were able to connect with him.
Yeah, so I connected with him about a 2-unit property that he had, because 20 rental cabins was not even on my radar. It was his 2-unit that I wanted, but he was moving out of Alaska, wanted the 2-unit to be able to go back to when he visited, but needed some of the money to then be able to buy his next property in Colorado. So that's how we were able to structure it, by really, as Pace says, finding the bunnies. I understood what the seller needed and structure the perfect deal for him and for me. Otherwise, it wasn't going to work for either party.
How cool. How cool. So you were already kind of doing the thing, even though you hadn't even met Pace.
Yes.
When did the dude come along? Like, when did you join Sub 2?
Yeah. So at that point, I had a year left in my contract. So this was around the 3-year mark of my first contract. I decided, you know what? I'm thankful for my service. I've done what I came to do. I'm going to get out. I told the Army HR that I'm basically out, or I'm out when my contract renews in 10 months. And so I started that transition out process, and I thought, okay, I'm basically retired. I have $7,500 a month coming in every single month from real estate.
Nice.
That sounds cool. Like, it was great. Right. But at the same time, I was moving back down to San Diego, which is very expensive. So I took on another job as a high-level environmental health position with the county of San Diego. And that's when I met Pace. He was coming down to San Diego. I watched one YouTube video of his about the Morby method. It was just it was literally like fate. And he was explaining this concept, because obviously Morby method meant nothing to me. I didn't even know who Pace Morby was, but I was getting hit like everyone else with the ads and seller finance. So I was getting hit with the ads. And there was a video on the Morby method where he was very simply, systematically, step-by-step explaining the thing I haphazardly did and got lucky with. Which is what you're saying, the contracts and this and that. Like, the seller I had no way to force the seller to send me back the funds after closing. I didn't even think about that. Like, I didn't know the money should have been in escrow and then released. I didn't think of any of those things.
And you were also, there was an angel guarding you, because if it was the wrong person, it could have been bad.
I built a good relationship. I mean, we literally signed the contract. We were at a bar drinking Bloody Marys on we were building a relationship. That just was the only thing that felt natural. People ask me all the time, how do you negotiate? So I'm I'm just a normal person. I'm not trying to negotiate. People ask me with my coaching and all that, oh, how do you do these marketing and sales and all that? I'm I literally don't know anything about marketing and sales. I just know how to talk to people like a normal human being. And we build, either we resonate or we don't. And that's okay. Yeah. That's all I've ever done, is just be a good, normal person and be kind to other people. Fortunately, it works out, but it's not some master plan. And if it was, I'm telling you right now, my super secret is to be nice to people. So try it out and see if it works for you.
Well, I also think what Robin said earlier is true. All that talking when you were a kid, now it serves you, because you are a good speaker. And that, for many people, that can really stop them in their tracks. I've seen it, so I'm a little bit more like you. I don't care if I put my foot in my mouth, it'll come out, it's not a big deal. But that can be something that people have to develop, or they don't feel they have. So when did you join Sub 2?
So that was, so right after that video, I called and talked to people, said, I don't need to be sold. I'm in whatever this is. I want more tools in my tool belt to learn more creative financing. That's all I cared about at the time. Pace was in San Diego for the Bigger Pockets convention conference twice in 1 month. And at one of the times I went up to him and I was talking to him, because, I like to talk, and I have this cringy photo or video or whatever of me explaining, I did the more, literally my hands. I'm and then hindsight, I'm who am I to talk to this guy? I don't know. It just felt weird. I'm over here telling him things I did this thing and blah, blah, whatever. And he stunned me in that moment. He basically told me, when I told him my situation, that I was basically free and financially free and didn't know what to do next, he stunned me and said, dude, you're not. And like, I opened up that I'm, at the same time as I felt financially free, I was also very depressed because the burden of my portfolio was actually killing me, because I put everything on my own shoulders. And he literally was the first person to tell me. There was no one around me could articulate what was going on, but he was so far ahead that he could easily see it and provide a solution, which was, you've literally created a job for yourself, because I was finding my deals, renovating them, managing them myself, doing every single step of the business, into the bookkeeping, everything. And I hated all of that. I liked the monthly income. I hated a lot of this other stuff. And he said, all I've done is create a job for myself that I hate. And as an engineer, I'm not even getting paid very well, because I could be making a lot more just doing my job 40 hours a week. And I was like, what the hell? Like, what are you talking about? I was shocked. That's not what I was
saying. And then you're, wait, let me give you this money so I can join your mentorship.
I know. Well, and I did that before. So then I pay him. I'm like, dude, I joined. I saw his videos. Like, perfect. And he tells me, dude, you're like doing things so wrong, which thank goodness he did, because I changed everything based off that conversation. Was just like, I did build myself a job that I dislike, that is not paying me well enough. And he said, take that same time, take that money that I was already underwriting for property management, for repairs and all this, but I was just keeping all my cash flow instead of dedicating it to the right sources. And he said, free up your time by giving your property manager 10% income. Just do all that stuff. You've already underwrote it. Do that, because your time, not only will you enjoy your life more, you'll enjoy this business more, but think of all the other things you could be doing with that time. I've never really valued my time in that sense of like, well, what is my correct dollar per hour? And it's not only just the dollar per hour, like what are the higher level tasks that I could be doing, but what are the things that I would enjoy doing more of as well? And that set me on a whole different path of the scale that I've done. I mean, that was one thing.
That is a very interesting thing, because, you know, it's like being penny wise and pound foolish, right?
100%.
Especially when you're coming with the kind of background that you're coming from. And I also, mine was definitely more drastically poor at the very beginning. But, you know, when you're hustling to get those side jobs so that you can make ends meet or get a little bit ahead and stuff, you don't really think about, wait, why am I working for such a small amount? Instead, you're thinking, oh, and this much will go to profit. Yay. You know, so I get it. We just weren't in a position where Pace was, where he already understood that money is there to be used and to help you grow. And you can always get more money, but you can't get as much time. And if it's made you dislike it, now it's working against you.
Right.
So, yeah.
And that's why I didn't want to grow my portfolio. He highlighted that too. I said, I don't really know if I want to buy more real estate. I think I'm going to retire real estate investing. I've done really well. And he said, yeah, of course you don't. Because the more you add, the more work you have to do that you don't enjoy. So mentally, you're going to sabotage any opportunity to buy more real estate. It was like, oh, duh, that makes a ton of sense. So like he helped unlock. At that point, mindset wasn't even I just work hard. Like I worked through everything for better or for worse. And it was like, okay, well, wait, there's a lot more to this thing. It's not the strategy of buying real estate exclusively. It's everything. Your whole life.
I know.
This is a huge component. How do you integrate it effectively with your life? And what I've been able to do over the last 2 years, scale even more than I did back then. Like those are a crazy, like 16 months. And then what I've done in the last 2 years has been like drastically even better, but it's also been with the appropriate lifestyle design, which is huge for me right now. Like lifestyle design with my baby and everything is like my family and time enjoying my life and in the journey is way more important than just maximizing dollars. And honestly, with that mentality, I ended up doing better financially because then I can outsource things to the right people as opposed to me trying to do everything not as well as they can. It's just this fun.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I see other people having their eyes open to that, like Rex, Shippy, and, I see other people who are understanding that. And that is a very important aspect for sure. So you met him in San Diego about 2 years ago?
Yep. September of 2022.
Oh, geez. I don't often feel this way, but I'm jealous. I started before you, and there's no way I have half of what you do. But that's not a competition. But
Right.
here's the thing that,
Well, it is just against yourself.
yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly true. Talk to me a little bit about what you have done since, because, or maybe we should do it this way. Why don't you tell us what you're into now? Because I find it very interesting that you have not only amassed a good team, but that you are absolutely changing your entire lifestyle. And it isn't just about the money. But talk about that, because I think our viewers may know and they may not know. But I would like to talk about, the intentional investor. You've got a mentorship that you've got started, a private, group now. You've got school.
Yes. So
There's a lot of things going on, bud.
yes.
And I want to know, how big is your super investor community? Or is it too late for me to join? What's the story? Because I'm very excited about what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah. So, and that was Pace too. Like Pace has played, I tell people, like I joined Sub 2 to learn a little bit more about creative financing, but like Pace changed my life because he was the role model that I needed to understand. Let's just say me as a provider, there's a lot more that I can do to be a better husband, a better now father, and I could spend my time and energy more intentionally. And just a lot of mindset stuff that I've never worked through up until even now. I'm really in the phase where I'm really focused on like mindset and growth and trying to overcome some past things. Usually I just worked through everything, but over the last 2 years, I really took a lot of what Pace said, either directly to me or to others, and embodied them in the sense of, he literally said, people join the Sub 2 community and some of them exclusively join, and all they do is just buy a few properties a month. And then I thought, well, why can't I be that? There's someone else is doing it. Why can't I be the one who's just buying deals? I don't want to sit there and wholesale and all this extra crap. I just want to buy and hold more real estate that generates me passive income and then builds my wealth through debt pay down and property appreciation. That's what I want to do. And he said, if I can go back and do any single skill set, the thing I would focus on more than anything is raising capital. And I said, why can't I get really good at freaking raising capital? Like, why can't I do that? So I've just continued like taking the first lesson of how I built a business that I hated. Like I just did not enjoy being part of that, raising capital and buying deals to create essentially my step-by-step blueprint of how how like over 40 times now, I've consistently bought and hold real estate using none of my own money by packaging great investment opportunities and then working with capital partners to then own these assets together, or they get solid returns on their money. So I've just really been focused on that entire process.
Because it is the linchpin, isn't it? I mean, you can always find properties,
right.
And you just have to find the right ones. But if you don't have the money, it's difficult to always do seller financing. So if you have, the source of finding good PMLs or PMPs, now you've got the keys to the
And
kingdom.
I think maybe because of what position I'm in now, I actually think it's the opposite. I think the more valuable position is finding great investment opportunities and then presenting that to capital partners. So I'm never asking for anything. What I'm doing is providing them a great investment opportunity so that they can be part of this deal with me or not. I feel like there are more people out there that have money than have access to great deals. So my job is to find these great deals and provide them to capital partners to work together on them. And that's been a huge part of it. And I say that very specifically and intentionally because of the mindset shift that I had to overcome. Like, remember as a child, someone offered me pizza at their house. I can't even eat that. Right. It's impolite to eat even that's something. So I'm never asking for anything. All I'm doing is providing great investment opportunities if others want to partake in that. It's been a huge mindset shift when it comes to raising
Interesting.
money.
Very interesting. That is a little bit different. Good. So talk to us about your PMLs or PMPs. Do you do more often? What sort of, so you're going and you're getting the end buyer again, like you did when you were wholesaling. You went and got the right buyer, and then you went and found the property. Now you're getting the partner, like what is it that would be the perfect fit for them? You're going and getting that and then bringing it to them.
It's like both kind of simultaneously. Like I'm telling people, hey, this is what I'm doing. These are the returns that I offer. Is this something you're interested in if and when that deal arises? So then, and then I'm actively looking for great, like my business partner and I are actively looking for great deals to then bring to capital partners. And I basically was going to retire in August of this year. Just a couple months ago, I quit my job. They wanted me to come back into work. I said, dude, I got a baby. The last thing I need to do is come back into the office. And my real estate portfolio is making more than my W-2 income. And I don't mind being since no one else really tells you, my portfolio at the time was making around $20,000 a month and in cash flow. The debt pay down alone is around $35,000 a month. We're paying down debts. We're paying like $65,000 in mortgage payments. Now more than that, 85-ish thousand. A third of that is going to pay down my debts, and my properties are appreciating in value at the same time.
Nice.
I say that just to be very transparent so people understand what is possible, whether you're using your own money or not. If you're finding great deals, you're getting these returns, if you do them right.
Right.
So
how much did you end up with net then? That you could keep for yourself. Now it's interesting.
No, that's my portion. That's not the whole
that
portion.
is
That's my
awesome.
Portion. Yeah.
Awesome. Very.
And so I was going to stop and just say like, hey, this is good. I told Pace, we had a one-on-one, like, I think I'm done here. And he said, cool. You've won the game of being financially free for yourself. Now the goal is how many more people can you help? And not only can you help them on their journey to do this, but also, and he said, value your time, make sure you're being fairly compensated for it. Otherwise, just go spend your time. If you really do want to retire, go spend your time with your wife and baby, and that's it. But he knows my work ethic, that like I'd be working on something. So just make sure to value your time now.
Right.
But then also it was, now the more I'm still buying real estate, the more money that I make, the more that I can, help with the causes that I care about. The environment, veterans. I don't think a single veteran should ever be homeless. And then child hunger. I don't think a single kid should ever have to worry about where is their next meal coming from. Like those are three causes that I care about immensely, and not exactly in that order. Say children, veterans, then the environment. But
wow.
And he said,
because I was going to ask you the question, and you just answered it.
Yes. And one of the big ones too, like I said, I love helping people, right? I wanted to be a doctor to help people. I wanted to do that with the environment or engineering, the environment, and then now with the real estate investing, because what I've really come to realize is I could care less about, like, I don't care about houses. I don't care about a single house that I own. It is an asset that allows me to be financially free so then I can do whatever I want with my time without having to worry about money. And in hindsight, I've always been running away from the poverty of my childhood. Yeah. So that because my mom, as amazing as she was as a provider, and if and when she did have time, we were always doing fun stuff together, but there was virtually no time that she could spend with us because she always had to work. So I said, if I'm going to have kids and a family, which I think is one of my biggest purposes, I'm not going to do it in such a way that I have no time for my family. So now that I can help other people do the same thing and take control of their finances and free up their time to pursue whatever their passions are, that's a passion of mine, very much so. And that's the super investors community is, we have right around 70 people who are actively, this is like my paid mentorship, where people are actively learning the step-by-step process and implementing that. There's my beautiful wife and my baby, like my why above everything else, where they are learning step-by-step financial freedom, mastering deal analysis, finding great deals consistently, raising the money to buy those deals, the step-by-step blueprint that I'm implementing every single time to maximize returns and minimize risk. And the sixth piece is all my like operations and systems to make the process as efficient as possible. Like that's what I don't want to work harder than I have to. That was a big takeaway from Pace. And I really want to work on the things that make the most sense for me. So then I designed basically a step-by-step process to make that as efficient as possible to safely and effectively scale your portfolio. And that's kind of all I've done over and over again. And that's what I'm helping other people do through super investors. And then my free wealth. My free wealth, the real estate. This is
not your super investors?
No, but it's okay. I mean, just DM me.
What is, okay, so what is this then?
That is my free. So I also have a free school community called Wealth Through Real Estate, where I'm explaining I think deal analysis is fundamental for any type of investment that you're doing. So knowing your numbers, whether you're a lender, buyer, whatever. And that's what Wealth Through Real Estate focuses on. Plus it educates more on like lending and bird dogging. The way I mentioned, I used to wholesale, and then raising capital and connecting it to good and proven operators. That's what Wealth Through Real Estate is for. And that's a free community for anyone that wants to join that on
Nice.
School. Then I have my super investors community on School as well.
Oh, give me that if you don't mind, or drop it in the chat and I'll highlight it, because.
So you'll see here that the old URL is intentional investor. And that's what it will show right now. However,
sorry about that.
It's okay. Pace has dubbed me as the super investor, and I'm just going all in on that. I don't know how I feel about being a super investor, but I love the idea that I'm creating a community of super investors. So the super investors community is something I'm very passionate about, much less so than me, myself as a super investor. The URL will change in the near future, but for the time being, it's based on what my old mentality was intentional investing. Like if you're going to invest, make sure it's assets that are pushing you forward towards your financial freedom goals, and understand that every investment that you're doing, like you have a choice to analyze that or not. And everything that you're doing to minimize, everything that you're doing as part of your due diligence is maximizing your returns and minimizing your risk. So please do your due diligence, because once you're in the asset, it's a lot harder. And now you have someone else's money on the line potentially. You have maybe a seller's credit on the line. Like be a good borrower, be a good buyer, take care of everyone around you. And it's to your own financial benefit as well. It seems obvious, but like what the Effie are people doing sometimes, you know?
Yeah, you do have to F and wonder. Tell me, Michael, is this your mentorship, or is it also with Adam? Because I know you and Adam
this is exclusively to my mentorship. Adam and I are business partners for Coast to Coast Vets. We buy and hold real estate and raise money to buy and hold our assets together. This is very separate to me. I'm more of the systems and step-by-step guy. And that's what the super investors community is. And that's who I educate and what I'm focused on. Adam and I, both military, prior service, all that great stuff, and a lot of commonality and work ethic. But we do also have different vibes that attract different tribes, we'll say. Yep. I'm more direct and blunt, and I'm going to say, hey, like I'm not, like I said, I'm not the mindset guy, but I pay for one of the best mindset guys to come in and educate people and help them, because I know that's not my strength. But it's like, you are not getting X result because you're not doing A and B. Start doing A and B and you'll see more of X, or you'll increase your probability for that. If you're not doing this, you can't assume you're going to have that. It seems very logical, and it's because it is, but I understand there's a lot of illogical reasons as to why people may or may not be doing A and B. So it's like, for me, it's the steps and help encourage people along those steps and answering questions and providing that step-by-step blueprint to like really help people on that process. I don't want someone to ever feel like I don't know what to do next, or like I'm distracted and shiny objects and all these things that I see all around me. Like I want to provide people that step-by-step process so they're never confused about what to do next. And if there are problems, cool, let's solve it together. There's 70 buy and hold investors all working on the same thing. Let's succeed on this together. I have the opposite of scarcity mindset, very abundant mindset. We can buy our few deals a month and everyone else can win at the same time. Like I'm not worried about not enough properties or anything like that. Let's all literally win together. But you got to work hard. That's the difference.
Awesome. Yeah. So how recent is this?
I started in November 1st. I've done higher ticket, like one-on-one type of coaching for the similar process. But based on Pace's advice, I've taken that, like I can't scale to my goal of helping 1,000 1,000 people. I don't care if you're an investor, but I teach investing. 1,000 people directly achieve financial freedom. So then the only way I was going to get there is not one-on-one, but rather in a collective or group setting. So this is the community for it. I've taken all of the education, the content, the trainings, the tools, the resources, everything, and then put it into our super investors community, do twice a week live calls, and then provide more and more great things like free access to the CRM that I use. I give it to the community. It's Go High Level, but it's my own version of it. It's the super investors version of it.
Oh, so you do use Go High Level?
Yeah, I just use it's one of those things too, where it's the actual product is so overly complicated. People get distracted and don't know how to use it to its fullest. So then it's like, well, how do we provide a simplified version to essentially make it easier to track investment opportunities and then to raise money? Because that's all I'm really focused on. That is the thing that my thing is, like, very singular. Financial freedom through passively holding, owning real estate and passively holding it, and then leveraging, other people's capital so that you all win and make money together.
Right. Right.
That's it. So it's like, how can I make everything very straightforward for that and not distract people from all these other amazing things out there? Because you can win in a million different ways. But if you're diluting what you're doing, you're going to dilute your results. So it's like, how do we focus on really emphasizing like what matters the most based on my experience, right? I'm biased because I'm leveraging what worked for me.
Of course. Of course. And this is where folks can go to learn more about it.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. In the near future, it will say super investors, but I have to wait till the end of this month because I'm in something called the School Games. It's a competition on the platform for the fastest growing communities. And we've like exploded. I mean, we're like the 7th biggest this month, top 50 of like the tens of thousands of communities because people have seen me put in the work and they want that step-by-step blueprint. And I have like discounted pricing for anyone that joins this month as like a thank you for coming in early.
Wait, this month. So just a couple of days left?
Yes. Actually, and if you procrastinate and wait till November 30th, it's too late. So by the 29th is your
all
last
right
day
then.
for the discount.
So there you have it, guys. If you're interested, don't waste time. And I think that at this point, I want to ask if you would mind coming back in about another year.
Yeah,
I want to
for sure.
see where you've taken this,
right?
And what you have learned about helping others, because you'll still be doing real estate very actively, but it is an interesting thing to see, the shift and the growth because you're in a different stage completely.
Completely. And that's like what I'm super excited and passionate about is like, this is a new journey for me. Like I was kind of getting a little bored of real estate investing because it was like the same thing over and over. I'm thankful for the results, but adding this extra spin and helping other people more proactively and more actively in larger group settings is this very exciting part of my journey. And I'm investing just like I did for real estate, a lot of money to get better at real estate investing is the same thing that I'm doing with how can I be a better coach, mentor, educator, whatever you want to call it. How can I be better at this thing? Because that's what everyone deserves. If you're paying me to do anything, you're going to get the best of me. And what I'm doing is I'm taking all that capital and reinvesting it to provide more tools and resources for the community and to develop myself to be better for everyone. Because I got the blueprint, I've got all that stuff. How can I be even better for everyone?
Wow.
I'm 30, right? I still got a long journey. So I've got a long time to keep learning and investing in myself and helping other people on the journey.
Absolutely. I hate that it actually has to end. But I would like to say thank you very much to our audience and thank you so much to Michael. Guys, again, don't wait too long. I would explore it. I would definitely get in there and see what the story is. And I would like to say thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Effie.
We shall see you guys next week.